Coming up on Tech News today, Amazon's Q4 numbers are in and the news is good and bad. Megaupload files are safe a little longer anyway. Google's really not changing privacy policies. At least that's what they want you to think. And our tablets, PCs, all that more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Tuesday, January 31st, 2012. Tech News Today is brought to you by GoToMeeting. Collaborate face-to-face remotely with GoToMeeting with HD Faces. For your free 30-day trial, visit GoToMeeting.com, promo code TNT. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Iyaz, Akhtar.
And I'm Jason Howell.
And today, Tom Merritt is off this week. If you're wondering, why do things look a little bit different? But you've got the rest of us, and you also have Justin Robert Young joining us of NSFW and WeirdThings.com. Hey, Justin.
How are you guys doing? It's a pleasure to be back on the show and not sneaking into your as-yet built studio.
That's right.
Was that the last time you were on?
Days.
Yeah, that was last time.
Like, wow, okay, that's been a long time then. Okay, yeah. So I guess Justin was right.
Finally, I served out my probation.
Yeah.
Back on the show.
Well, we hope you've learned your lesson. This will be a trial show for you, so do good.
I bet.
Let's start off with Amazon's earnings. This was hot news today. They reported Q4 sales up 35% over a year ago. Last year was $12.95 billion. This year, $17.43 billion. Earnings were $177 million in the fourth quarter, or 38 cents a share. Now, Wall Street was expecting earnings 17 cents a share on revenue of $18.25 billion. So I guess they missed that mark, but revenue's up. Amazon says that Kindle sales tripled over the holidays, but they don't actually give numbers. In fact, yesterday, Jordan Rowan from Stifel Nicholas had estimated 60 million Kindle Fires.
6 million.
6 million. 6 million. Not 16. Thank you. Fires sold over the quarter, which was a ramp up from his original 5 million. Mm-hmm. But we still don't know because Amazon doesn't like to give numbers like that.
Not only that, but the numbers that Amazon was saying that they tripled over holidays for Kindle sales, that's all Kindles, including the DX, the Touch, the 3G, every variety tripled apparently.
Right, and so it's not as if to say, wow, revenue. Well, yes, they sold a lot more Kindles than they had ever sold before, but they never had the Fire before, and the Fire apparently sold really well.
Well, that and the other Kindle, the e-ink ones are so cheap now. I mean, compared to last year, they're comparing numbers to last year. So last year they were like, what, $200? Now they're $80. Yeah. So, I mean, they could sell units like crazy, I think.
And they were obviously the real hot item this Christmas. But I guess my question is, in general, all retail sales were lower than analysts' expectations, and they were actually down from last year if you account for inflation because the economy was softer than a lot of people were hoping. So I guess my question is removing obviously the super sexy number of the Kindle, how much it costs versus how much they're earning and how many they exactly sold, which they're being cagey about. Was this just a reaction to the fact that all over the place, people just weren't buying as much for Christmas as people had expected?
You Amazon apologist. I mean, clearly. I mean, you saw what Apple did in Q4. They don't have this worry, right? They sold millions of stuff. What probably likely happened to impact the numbers is the Kindle Fire. They sold a ton of them. They were taking a loss. At least that's the guess. People that think that Amazon was taking a loss on each Kindle Fire sold.
Yeah, there's a rumor up to $10 per unit.
Right. So because they're going to make all their money back in the content over the long term, and maybe in the future when the components drop down in prices, they will be able to make a profit on the hardware itself. But Amazon has said the Fire is really about content delivery. It's not about the hardware.
Well, that might have a little bit to do with the 2012 expectations. The outlook for Amazon's first quarter fell short of expectations. Amazon projected first quarter sales between $12 billion and $13.4 billion with a wide profit and loss range. Amazon projected an operating loss of $200 million to a profit of $100 million, and we were kicking around before the show a little bit. That's a huge discrepancy. And I have to assume this has something to do with investing so much into new hardware that would pay off in the long term. But the numbers do look a little, first quarter, not sure.
You know,
I'm not sure how to read it.
Is this maybe a reaction to how much the components for something like the Kindle Fire are going to fall over the next year that would affect, profit? Because obviously what they're setting expectations here is that, hey, listen, we could still be losing money on this in a year's time, but we hope not.
Well, there are several rumors that Amazon is what they were talking about buying RIM last year. They were talking about there's rumors of them having a standalone Netflix competitor. They probably have to do content deals because they have the Fire and it's so popular. They need to keep pumping up that content library. That's not cheap either. So they're probably thinking, okay, look, the Fire is a long-term winner for us. It's going to take us a while to start really seeing some serious money from this, but we have to build it up properly because Amazon's thinking long-term. They're not thinking, okay, quarter to quarter, we'll do great, because that usually led to disasters for lots of companies. They're thinking very long term.
Amazon also said that its App Store for Android customers nearly tripled in the fourth quarter compared to the third quarter. In addition, customers downloaded more apps from the Amazon App Store during the fourth quarter than they had in all previous quarters combined, which is not a big surprise because the Kindle Fire forces you to use Amazon's App Store. Although, Jason, I know that you were using the App Store before. It's not as if Amazon
only gets App Store users from the Kindle Fire. No, it's absolutely not. I mean, the Amazon App Store was a thing well before the Kindle Fire was earlier in the year. And I mean, yes, I use it on a daily basis. I use it for the free app of the day, or at least I check it on a daily basis. And if I like the app, I go ahead and add it. I've never bought an app through the Amazon App Store. But then the Kindle Fire users, I mean, unless you've done something like rooted the device or something, or somehow gotten a different, marketplace installed on it, that's your way of buying apps. So all of those Kindle Fire users have that marketplace. Of course, it's going to spike the numbers.
And sure, and imagine everybody who goes to the App Store just to get that free app of the day and then ends up buying another couple.
Well, they missed the
right.
Well, and this just it kind of reminds me of like when networks switch formats, like when A&E kind of went to doing the documentary reality stuff and the original programming that they did. It was like oh, interventions up 1,000% on what people were watching on A&E before, but they're like weren't watching an evening at the Improv. They're just watching this other programming way more now that there's a reason to.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, so good news and bad news for Amazon, depending on how you read the numbers. But in general, they sold a crap ton of Kindles, but we just don't know how many exactly. And now, on to patent wars.
Dang it. I can't believe I wasn't prepared for that.
Done.
There we go. I blame Amazon App Store. Yeah.
Those free apps, they'll get you every time.
Damn you, Amazon.
Latest in the Samsung versus Apple patent wars, the European Commission has opened a formal investigation into whether Samsung has used its patents to distort competition in the European mobile market. Samsung is currently trying to get Apple products banned in various EU member states for patent infringement. Now, this all stems from something called Frand, and I'll read the Commission's statement to give it a little bit of context. The Commission will investigate in particular whether in doing so, Samsung has failed in doing so by suing Apple. Samsung has failed to honor its irrevocable commitment given in 1998 to the European Telecommunications Standards Institute, or ETSI, to license any standard essential patents relating to European mobile telephony standards on fair, reasonable, and non-discriminatory terms. That's what Frand is, fair, reasonable, non-discriminatory. So the deal is that back in 1998, Samsung and other companies signed an agreement with the Commission saying, listen, if there is a standard essential patent, like 3G, for example, which does apply to Europe in this case, that the European Commission and companies that are doing business under it agree will forward the market, that we got to go 3G, and if somebody has a patent that other people need in order to keep up, then they have to agree to license that patent. So in Samsung's case, they do have some of these patents. The EU goes on to say such commitments were given to ETSI by many patent holders, including Samsung, when the third generation 3G mobile and wireless communication system standards were adopted in Europe in order to guarantee undistorted competition and reap the positive economic effects of standardization. It's very important that Frand commitments be fully honored. Okay, so Samsung, are they at fault here? Apple says, well, we never received a patent offer from Samsung, even though they're supposed to allow us patents for something like mobile wireless, which is what these patents do pertain to. We didn't get anything until after Samsung had already sued us. We don't know exactly what those offer terms were because they're not public, but Apple has called it manifestly not Frand. So not fair, not reasonable, not non-discriminatory. Back in October, a Dutch court had also ruled that Samsung is indeed obligated to offer Apple patent licensing under Frand terms. So at least back then, a Dutch court said, listen, these are essential patents. These are patents that you can't hold back from Apple. You're supposed to be allowing some sort of agreement between the two. Apple says they didn't. They sued us first. Iyaz, what do you make of this?
Well, I mean, it looks like, we first see a bunch of cases where Apple's trying to stop Samsung from bringing in their products into most of Europe because they're saying, look, you copied our product. This looks like our product. It's confusing the marketplace. And then Samsung then goes ahead and files their own set of lawsuits, pulling out this patent, which if they were part of the standard with Etsy, they're supposed to allow. So the thing is, it just seems like it's a case of sour grapes from just looking at this entire thing from the surface. Because, I mean, they have, over 30, they're suing each other in over 30 countries. So Samsung and Apple are feuding. And so it seems like Samsung's just being like, you know what, we got to get them on something. Maybe we can stop them. So we'll try to use this. And one of the issues about something like Etsy and Frand, setting this licensing agreement for patents and standards. That's why in the U.S. we had two systems, because people didn't want to pay. Certain companies did not want to pay for the patent rights or patent licensing rights, fees, that is, for this GSM standard. Etsy, they went ahead and said, look, GSM is a standard. That's why in Europe they can switch phones like that just really easily. We don't have that here. So it was a really interesting idea of what they did. So Samsung to go back on an agreement, theoretically, that's what the argument is, to go back on it, it could be an abuse.
Now, Samsung, for their part, says the European Commission has not given us a formal notice, although the EU investigation technically started against Samsung last November when officials asked both Samsung and Apple to turn over data related to the enforcement of mobile-related patents, which is what we're talking about today. Florian Muller over at Foss Patent says that the launch of a full-blown investigation after we had these months of preliminary investigation is definitely an important step, that the commission says, listen, we need more of a formal inquiry here. And it's worth noting that Apple, while also suing Samsung for some patent-related issues, are not suing over anything that qualifies under these Frand patent agreements.
Well, I think for something like this, we have to look at the bigger context of all these patent wars, and now we are starting to see a cost of things expanding. And like you said, Iyaz, if this is a tit-for-tat issue where Samsung says, well, you are trying to poke us on all these different things, they may have stepped out of bounds and into, a legal issue of their own and trying to enforce, something like this under these Frand guidelines.
All right, moving on to...
And you got a friend in me. All right,
you wanted to cram that in.
Oh, Justin, God love you. A little more politics. This is Google and U.S. Congress now. Google has responded to the Congress concerns about Google's new streamlined privacy policy. It's very likely that you have gotten at least one email about this, if not 10, as I have. Google has tried to explain in its new attempt to have one privacy policy that covers all of its properties rather than many, that it is not collecting more data. It is collecting the same data as before. As for privacy issues, people saying you can't opt out of this, Google says, now privacy settings offer control. If you're signed in, you can still turn off search history. You can still switch Gmail chat to off the record. You can still control the way that Google is tailoring ads to your interests in Ads Preferences Manager. You might not be using that, but you certainly have the option to. You can use incognito mode on Chrome. You can use any of the privacy tools we offer. None of that is changing. It's all just worded differently in the privacy statement. Google says we haven't changed any old settings at all, and they've said, all right, we need to educate users a little bit more. To educate users, we will continue to conduct the most extensive user notification effort in the company's history, and the notifications will continue past March 1st when the new privacy policy is set to take effect. So you are going to see more from Google about this.
Oh, great. Board notices. Apparently, I have over 10 Google accounts because I keep getting that email, and they're just stacking up. That's good to know. I didn't realize I had so many. And on top of that, I think they stop you from using something. They'll show you, oh, we've changed our privacy settings. And so after it goes into effect on March 1st, we'll still see that. So thanks for all the notice, guys, because, when you have notice, you read it and you just don't go past it other than get really annoyed because you saw it so many times.
Well, I guess the only alternative is that people can say, I didn't know, you weren't clear enough about this. So more news is good news, I guess, but it is annoying.
I mean, I think it's very interesting to see how they are handling this. In a way, it almost reminds me of like that you still see those like BP Gulf, like we're helping the Gulf Coast commercials that are essentially tourism commercials for regions that the oil spill affected. And I think their goal is we just want to get to the point where people are like, oh my God, we get it. The Gulf is okay. And if they've hit that saturation point, then they will not think BP ruined the entire environment. And I think Google is saying if we overkill and all we do is give explanation, then the one thing they can't hit us on is that we are trying to do this in the dead of night and pull something over people's eyes. But I think the biggest element of this that people are responding to are not that Google is taking new liberties with your information, because technically it's not really anything remarkable that I think the average person on the street would find reprehensible. It's really just getting yet another look of how much information Google takes from you on an everyday basis.
Yeah, and Google has decided, in the vein of too much information so that you can't argue that you didn't know, put up a new post on the Google public policy entitled Changing Our Privacy Policies, Not Our Privacy Control, which is just pretty much reiterating all the points it made to Congress. But they say we're still keeping private information safe. We're not changing visibility of anything you've got on Google. We're still allowing you to do searches. You can watch videos on YouTube. You can get driving directions, a lot of other Google stuff without signing into a Google account. So we're not forcing you to sign in. We're still offering you choice and control through Google Dashboard. Again, that ad preferences manager. We won't sell your personal information to advertisers. That's always something that Google has said that they won't do. Want to make sure that you understand they still won't. And we're still offering data liberation if you prefer to close your Google account and take your data elsewhere. So not that there's really a competitor that you could do anything with all of that data.
Sure somebody should be working on that right now. Every time Google gets in the news and they're like, data liberation, you can just go if you want. They're very, very cavalier with that. There's nobody, I don't know who's ready to go. Sure, we'll totally import everything. But I mean, it just seems like Google's stuck in this kind of like a sibling relationship with Facebook. So Facebook did all these crazy things with privacy, and Congress is like the parents. They're like, well, Facebook, man, every time they did something with privacy, we got to look into that. So Google goes ahead and says, we're just going to have, instead of 60, we're going to do one privacy policy. Then the parents are like, no, wait a minute. The first time Facebook did it, and so they freak out without actually reading the privacy policy. It hasn't really been changed. If anything, it's a streamlining. You had 60 of these things. You brought it down to one. And that's freaking people out. And you've changed very little. Okay, and there's notice. Oh yeah, this is not as evil as people think it is.
I think there is a perception that something that's oversimplified is omitting too much. When you've gone from 60 privacy policies to one, there's the fear that something's being hidden inside. I mean, all signs point to Google just saying, we're just trying to make it easy for you.
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, they probably there's probably legal things that they just want to make sure that they are clear on in case they want to share between stuff. And as we've seen with them putting the social data into their main Google search, obviously what they want to do is move more integrations in there. But to Iyaz's point, the parents in this situation or the Congress people that want to make political hay out of this is just, to me, it is the most annoying elements of congressional action. That I think that it was the old Bob Dole quote that the most dangerous place in Washington was between Senator Chuck Schumer and a camera, and that's what it feels like for stuff like this. It's just someone that their kids say, that Google thing is really weird. They're like, what? Call a press conference. I'm running on the anti-Google thing that I'm going to read about later platform.
Yeah, something must be wrong with this. Okay, before we get to our daily mega upload news, and there is some, I want to take a minute to thank GoToMeeting for sponsoring this episode of TNT. I think everybody would agree that in an ideal world, if you have to have a meeting with one or many people, it's all great to be in the same room together, because that's, makes collaboration easy. But you can't always do that. A lot of people work remotely, and a lot of businesses have to deal with that. Travel is very expensive. You might have people in a bunch of different countries who have to meet on a regular basis, and you can't do it over email. Everybody's busy. So If this is the kind of challenge that your company faces, or even you personally, if you have to have meetings with a lot of people, GoToMeeting with HD Faces is probably the best solution you will ever come across. So how it works is GoToMeeting, it takes just a webcam, and then you just click into a session to collaborate with your group. So that gets passed around. You're all in the session together. And not only do you see each other, and it looks really good. And again, all you need is a webcam. We all have one of those. Most of us anyway. Easy to get one. And you can also collaborate on your documents. So you can show stuff in full screen. You can say, here, I'm clicking in the doc here. What do you guys think? Doesn't it look good? Let's go into some settings. Are we all together? Highlight, the whole thing is it's as if you're collaborating with each other in the same place, but you're actually using GoToMeeting by Citrix. So if you want to start hosting your own face-to-face online meetings today with GoToMeeting, we've got a special offer for you. You can try it free for 30 days. Why not? See if it works. GoToMeeting. Go to meeting.com, click the Try It Free button, and then use the promo code TNT. Once again, that's GoToMeeting.com, Try It Free button, and the promo code is TNT to try it out for free for 30 days. Now go have some meetings. We all need more of those. And now on to Megaupload. They're probably a little bit wishing that they hadn't had so many meetings, at least over the internet.
It's like a Megaupload mega update. So there's a whole bunch of Megaupload stories. We're going to put them all together here. So Ira Rothkin, the attorney for Megaupload, says, guess what? They're working with the hosting companies that can preserve the data on their servers for at least 2 weeks. So if you were freaked out that you were going to lose whatever you have on those servers, apparently they'll be safe for another 2 weeks. Meanwhile, the Department of Justice told CNET that it did have a warrant to obtain internal Megaupload conversations held via Skype. Now, the quote is, electronic evidence was obtained through search warrants, which are reviewed and approved by a U.S. court. A spokesperson for the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia said, now, previous reports said that Skype didn't receive any legal process, so The Verge figured out that some tracking software is probably placed on Megaupload computers, since Skype only holds on to data for about 30 days, while the conversations the government have date back 5 years. And then CNET also went into that 72-page indictment that just seemed to go on forever. Found out the DOJ claims that Megaupload, they padded their content library by downloading videos from YouTube. There's a whole bunch of quotes, but this one stands out. Quote, well, we only have 30% of their videos yet, said one employee. In my opinion, it's nice to have everything so we can decide and brainstorm later how we're going to benefit from it. And, of course, Megaupload's attorney said, we will not comment on the specifics of the indictment, and we'll save that for a court of law.
So Ira Rothkin had said, listen, we're going to try to figure out how to work with authorities to figure out what to do with this data. We don't want this data to be deleted. And we had talked yesterday, this might have to do with them building their case, which it sounds like they want to do. They feel like there's at least enough legitimate information on these servers to be able to say, look, look at all this information. Look at all this stuff that wasn't pirating, wasn't copyright infringement. What I want to know is, I know YouTube wasn't as big as it was now in 2006, but how do you scrape all the videos on YouTube and then offer them on Megaupload? I mean, I know how you do it, but that's quite a work in progress.
Well, I mean, Megaupload's entire claim to fame was that you can download pretty much anything.
Yeah.
So part of their, establishing that element is they looked at YouTube and YouTube's explosion, especially back in 2006, and said that people go there because they can just type in what they want to see and it pops up. Let's be that. And so their easiest, the closest spot between 2 points, or closest line between 2 points was, let's just scrape everything off YouTube. But I do have a conspiracy theory that I would like to propose here on Tech News Today as to how they got 5 years worth of conversation.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Do tell.
Yeah, we want to know.
Think President Nixon. What do really, really paranoid people, and you've seen through some of the dialogue that they had between each other, that a lot of people working for Kim.com maybe thought that if things really went down, that he would just run away and take their money. What did they do? They stockpile information that they could use if everything completely went sour. So it would not surprise me if what we're looking at is not the FBI, tapping these things from 5 years ago, but rather when they seized this information, there was some file that included, it's very easy to record Skype calls. I think a lot of people have, Ecamm's call recorder for Mac. It's a super easy solution. You just hit a button and you can record any call you want. That a lot of these conversations were archived by some of the people inside Megaupload and that's how they got that's how they found their hands.
But if the indictment was written last year and they didn't actually go into anyone's house and seize anything physical until January, are you suggesting this wasn't like in a back room somewhere in New Zealand? It was, where was it?
I mean, if it was on one of the physical, if it was on somebody's computer or something like that, then that's where, they would just have a file of, calls to remember if Kim.com ever runs off with all the cheese.
Oh, that folder.
Yeah.
Well,
we all have that.
In that conspiracy theory, it couldn't be couldn't be crazy if somebody wanted to, I don't know, cop a plea. Like, oh, I happen to have all this data for years because I was covering my ass this whole time. Mm-hmm. There you go. This guy's going to get off scot-free or has a nice deal. This is all the conspiracy theory. Thanks, Justin.
No problem.
I don't suppose if I wanted to further another conspiracy theory, there would be any truth to the fact that Skype may hold data longer than 30 days.
Oh, that's rough.
I'm just saying. It's possible that the company's lying. I don't think that's
I'm sure
true.
Microsoft will take care of it.
That would be something that Ira Sockman really should look into.
Sockman or Rothkin.
It's conspiracy theory Tuesday.
Whatever,
again.
it's Tuesday.
Yeah.
It's still Rothkin. So yes, it still remains to be seen what's going to happen with this data. Obviously, Mr. Rothkin is doing his best to take back some control. Whether users get their files back intact or not still remains to be seen. But we will update you on the Megaupload story as we learn about it, because we just can't help ourselves. And now this is a great debate, one for the ages, whether or not tablets are PCs. Now, I'm sure you have an opinion about it, but a new study, report from research firm Canalys, is causing new controversy because it's putting Apple on top as world's biggest PC maker for the fourth quarter of 2011, beating out HP. So Apple on top for the first time. Now, Canalys, of course, is counting iPads and all tablets as PCs. Some research firms do this, some do not. The rules are different. 120 million PCs were shipped globally last quarter, up 16% from the same time last year. And 15.43 million were iPads, so the majority of tablets, but there were others. And 5.2 million were Mac, so Apple together accounted for 17% of the total. At this point, I think we need to draw a line in the sand and figure out who thinks tablets are PCs and who doesn't. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go?
Sarah, why don't you go first?
I'll go first. All right, so I think that I have a desktop computer, I have a laptop, and I have a tablet. And I think that those are all computers. And the reason is because back in the day, there might have been certain kinds of ways you'd get on the internet where you couldn't actually compute. But if I can use my tablet for an entire weekend, keep up on email, correspondence, be able to write, not only read, be able to take photos and edit them, be able to keep up on all my social networks, etc., that is a computer. That does not offer me anything less than what my laptop offers me, besides maybe the convenience of a keyboard. But you could have a keyboard accessory for that, Bluetooth or plug in somehow. And then you get into the argument of, well, it's not as powerful, but that's how PCs are too. There are really powerful PCs, and then there's netbooks. They're all PCs. That's my soapbox.
I totally agree with you on that, Sarah. And I think really the question here, in terms of an accounting position for these analysts, is what do we want the definition of a PC to be, and specifically, do we want it to remain relevant 10 years from now? Before, home video used to mean VHS and Laserdisc, right? And eventually, as those standards started phasing out, it became other different versions of what home video meant, but we still use the term home video. If we want PCs to be as relevant 10 years from now as it is now, then yes, tablets are going to have to be a part of them. And like you pointed out, the only thing different from an iPad now and what a netbook was, which nobody had a problem calling a PC 4 or 5 years ago, is something like a physical keyboard, which I think time has proven we don't care as much about as maybe we would have thought of back in the day. I think for a lot of the TWiT audience, you're right. A tablet and iPad does not replace what we would imagine a desktop or a laptop to do. But for a large segment of the population, it absolutely does. And that to me means it's a PC.
I'll argue for the sake of arguing. I agree with you guys so far, by the way. But I'll just go the other side. All right, so the chat room's bringing up a good point, though. They're saying, what about smart televisions? At some point, you can do a lot of the things you do on a tablet on a television. Do we start counting televisions? Because they are adding things like Android on televisions or Google TV, so you can access your social network, your email, and everything else you could almost do on a desktop or a laptop. Now your definition is a television. Now this is getting a little vague. What about set-top boxes? Is a boxy box a PC? Let's go with the crazy narrow definition of what a PC is, and that's basically, can Hulu run on it for free in the United States, I guess? Because apparently the definition of a computer is a hinge. So if you have a hinge and a real browser, you can access Hulu for free.
All right, well, by that definition, then no, a television isn't a PC.
Television, then
because
the
I
tablet
got to
can
pay
be,
for Hulu Plus.
Then again, a transformer tablet messes me up because they have hinges if you have the keyboard dock. So I don't know what the definition
is. What if you had a stripped down, so I guess like a stripped down Mac Mini hooked up to a TV? Then that's a PC hooked up to a TV.
It's a PC hooked up to a TV already, though.
Right. That means the TV isn't the PC, or else you wouldn't need that PC hooked up to the TV.
You got your PC in my TV. You got your TV in my PC.
No, it just shows you how ridiculous the lines are on this. It's like, look, it's your personal computing device.
Yeah, and even further, if a tablet is a PC, and let's take Ice Cream Sandwich, for instance. Ice Cream Sandwich is a tablet OS as well as a phone OS. So then what's the difference? Is it the small form factor that makes it not a PC, even though it does everything that a tablet does?
Yeah, I don't even think we can have this argument much longer because, smartphones are little PCs too, but the definition, that I had, it just I think it becomes more an argument of who sold more devices that are all computers and which companies are on top, and people get up in arms whenever Apple's on top of anything. And of course, Canalys research is making it look like Apple's the top PC maker, and some people just have a problem with that. But
I do have one point. P. Delahanty in the chat room does point out that Transformers have hinges, so they should be counted as PCs.
I did say that.
You mean like the toys Transformers?
Yes, Transformers. Oh. Yeah, like Optimus Prime.
And not
Asus. Those are definitely PCs. Okay, let's move on to some good news for editors, or better news anyway. Final Cut Pro 10 has been updated with a lot of new features. Multicam support is finally back. That was something that was greatly missed from Final Cut Pro 7 to Final Cut Pro 10. A lot of editors were really up in arms about that. Where is it? But it also includes the ability to sync automatically. Very helpful. Also, Final Cut Pro will now sync via audio cues. So it's like actually audio waveform in a variety of sources that don't necessarily have to have time code, even be in the same format. So that can be extremely helpful, up to 64 inputs for multicam. And photos can be lined up automatically as well. It can be good for things like time lapses. Deeper XML import and export support, which is better, although there are still editors who are relying on EDL support and are sort of hoping that Apple will roll that back and at least allow both. Doesn't sound like it's going to happen, though. Statement from Apple says EDL is a legacy format and XML is the future. Take that as you will, but it looks like Apple doesn't want to look back in that case. New chroma keying features and support for third-party plugins and tools. One of them you're going to really like, 7to-X, is a tool for $10, third-party app that lets you move your Final Cut Pro 7 files to Final Cut Pro 10. So that was something that I know a lot of editors were like, I don't even want to try this thing because I've got all of these files, this data, that I can't even roll into the new format. So why bother?
Yeah, that was incredibly prohibitive for even thinking about switching from FCP 7 to 10. I think at first when I read this, my instant knee-jerk reaction was, no, it's still not good enough, blah, blah, blah. But then when I really kind of read through, I'm thinking, and then comparing it to kind of what the complaints were when it initially launched, they are addressing a lot of the original complaints here, as well as kind of showing that, it's only been out 7 months, I think, and they've already updated it twice with a lot of the requests that people have had for it. I think what's still very sticky about it, though, is just the fact that many professionals have bet their careers on Final Cut. and then that rug was pulled out from under them. So Apple might be doing a great thing here and bringing it up to speed, but they still completely changed it to the point to where those in the professional world aren't necessarily as willing to bet their careers on buying into it again, because who's to say that it doesn't happen again? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that there was a huge misstep by Apple, and it's a very rare thing for that kind of company, or for Apple specifically, to misjudge the reaction to an item like Final Cut X was to the developer community. For those of you who don't know, professional editors, they're hobbits. They live in caves, and they just they live on this one program and one device, and they're very particular about stuff. And I think to the reaction that Final Cut Pro 10 got, it's going to take a long while to sort of repair that amongst that community, where standards do not change all that often. I think it was very much like everybody was waiting for Christmas, and Santa just fell down the chimney drunk and had no presents. And now maybe it's a good way to fix it at this point, but it's still going to take a while. And I think Apple really missed a great opportunity to move people to a new standard all at once, which by and large they've been very good with.
Yeah, and I mean, Apple still wins here. They have captured the lower kind of price market and kind of the prosumer consumer market by doing this, and that was their goal all along. They're probably going to make way more dollars off of those users than they are the pros, as far as that's concerned.
I used to use Final Cut Pro a lot. I used to edit my own show for it seems like forever. I guess I was a hobbit, though. Apparently, I was in a dark room, and you'd be double monitors, and you get very used to a certain workflow. But I mean, this just reminds me of when they just threw out iMovie, did a new version that was just like this complete and utter like spit in the face kind of. We're going to take out all the tools. What timeline? You don't need this. It was a complete disaster, to the point where Apple went ahead and kept adding in things incrementally, like they're doing with Final Cut. Mm-hmm. I mean, it might be a little bit of this. Okay, wait a minute, we kind of screwed up. Or I think this was simple. They wanted to move to 64-bit. They wanted to get this thing out as soon as possible. And I still think Apple's thinking long-term. Again, another long-term company. They are like, we are probably building this for a touch interface. Like GarageBand looks really and works really well on the iPad. iMovie works really well on the iPad. And the way this thing looks more and more like iMovie to get a professional application on a touch device, it could be Final Cut Pro at some point. But I mean, it's just a good step in the interim. I just don't know if I think professionals are just burned. I mean, there's no way.
Right.
I think they're going to go back to this. I mean, I think Adobe was offering discounts for Premiere because everyone was like pulling their hair out and freaking out.
And Avid has seen a lot of uptick in their users as well. I mean, the fact of the matter is the damage could very well already have be done as far as the professional market is concerned. They probably they've missed the boat on that.
Then again, I mean, TWiT is a company. We're still using Final Cut Pro 7, and it's working fine. Yeah. At least for now.
I will say, I mean, all the professional editors that I know that were furious about Final Cut 10 all just kept using Final Cut 7. Yeah. Nobody, I mean, I know the guys from Film Riot on Revision 3, I think, started using Premiere. But other than that, like, everybody I know that edits TV shows and stuff like that, they just, they know what they like, and they're just going to stay with it. And it was more that they were upset that they couldn't update to these other things that, like Iyaz mentioned, had 64-bit and other things that could make their workflow better and easier, because they, until the announcement in Final Cut 10, trusted Apple.
Right, and what's really going to be interesting is when, and it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when the OS updates for Mac get to a point to where they stop being able to run Final Cut 7 for whatever reason. Eventually there's new technologies wrapped into those new OS updates, and they kind of time out old software. Final Cut 7 will be that someday, and then we'll see what happens, because people will almost be forced to make a decision
of ramping up 10 so that there aren't riots in the streets when that day does come.
There's something to jump to.
How will I edit toddlers and tiaras? This is an outrage.
Instead of answering that, let's move on to the news fuse. Samsung offered up the redesigned Galaxy Tab at 10.1N in response to Apple's claims that the original was too similar to the iPad, but the higher regional court in Dusseldorf, Germany, has ruled the original still can't be sold, at least in Germany, and neither can the smaller Galaxy Tab 8.9, which is another blow to Samsung, who's countersuing over mobile technology patents, but has lost 2 of those 3 infringement claims so far. The final case will be ruled on in early March.
ARM Holdings.
Springtime for Apple in Germany.
ARM Holdings announced its quarterly numbers, and it only saw a 45% rise in quarterly profits. Just 45%, huh? They weren't trying very hard. Revenue was also up up to $217 million, which is a 21% increase. And if you haven't heard of ARM, they power a ton of smartphones and tablets out there since they licensed their chip designs to NVIDIA, Qualcomm, Apple, pretty much everybody.
They're kind of a big deal. AT&T is doing an executive juggling trick. John Stankey moves from president and CEO of AT&T Business Solutions to group president and chief strategy officer. Ralph De La Vega leaves the top post at AT&T's wireless business and consumer wireline broadband business to president and CEO of AT&T Mobility. But that's not all. Andy Geis will now be senior executive vice president of AT&T Business and Home Solutions. And finally, John Donovan's now senior executive vice president of AT&T Technology and Network Operations. Donovan was previously CTO. And I don't know how any of this really matters too much because everybody still reports to CEO Randall Stevenson.
It's great for my tech CEO fantasy league.
Yes.
I'm doing really well.
They just had everybody stand up, move one chair over. That's your new job. There you go. British Sky Broadcasting Group announced a new internet-based television service that won't be tied to pre-existing Sky service. The company will sell content in two models, unlimited access or pay-as-you-go. The service will launch later this year and will be available via PC, laptop, tablet, smartphone, games console, or connected television. Or you can call them PCs. I don't know.
Not yet.
Oh, sorry.
No,
Really?
I think we are in agreement here. A state judge in San Jose, California, has dismissed Oracle's claim that it was duped into settling a dispute over its hiring of HP's former chief executive officer, Mark Hurd. Oracle says HP was fraudulent, hid that it was planning to hire Leo Apotheker as CEO and board chairman Ray Lane, and also claimed that HP was secretly paying Intel $88 million a year to artificially continue the Itanium chip. The judge said all of this still doesn't prevent Oracle from participating in the negotiations over the Hurd settlement or deprive Oracle of the opportunity to negotiate.
You want to make a disclaimer that you're still not related to Ray Lane?
I am not related. Well, I have a great uncle named Ray Lane. I don't think that's him, though.
You don't know?
No.
Okay, you may be right.
Maybe Sarah Lane, the dancer, is. Can we get a confirmation on that?
On to something else. A report from the Organization of Cooperation and Development says that over a 4-year period, Mexican consumers were overcharged $13.4 billion per year for internet and phone services. These fees were disproportionately levied on the poor. The report suggests Mexico should allow foreign investments in the telecom business to help alleviate the issue.
T-Mobile can claim it's the first carrier to offer Square credit card readers to retail outlets, its own. Stores equipped with T-Mobile smartphones can use the Square card reader dongles via the audio jack to finalize transactions by swiping their cards. This is great for cash-only businesses, says T-Mobile. They're trying to emphasize their small business offerings, although not every T-Mobile store is participating out of the gate. Also good for businesses that are cash-only and don't have iPhones.
It could save their business.
Another Square story on this. The Obama campaign actually announced that I think they're putting Square readers on all of their like major volunteers and people like that to take donations.
I believe Mitt Romney's camp is doing the same. I think those
look
are
at
the
that.
two so far.
Square coming up. Vote Square.
Square in 2012. They win either way.
In its never-ending quest to please every user, Microsoft showed off some changes to Windows 8, but the Windows 8 version of Explorer this time. By default, the ribbon interface will be minimized. You're not going to see that giant, hideous thing anymore. Microsoft says it will show keyboard shortcuts next to each ribbon button so users can move to keyboard shortcuts easily if they'd like. File transfers also get tweaked to make moving duplicate files a lot easier, so Windows 8 will automatically skip copies if you hit a little checkbox.
Finally, an online petition urging Apple to make the iPhone 5 ethically has gotten 35,000 signatures in the first 24 hours of the effort. Taryn Steinbricker-Kaufman, the executive director of Some of Us, who created the petition, said, I use an iPhone myself. I love it, but I don't love having to support sweatshops, and neither do millions of other Apple consumers. Now,
I would like to see that similar things be there for other companies that build stuff in China. I think it's really kind of myopic to look at this as only an Apple problem when so many of our technological advancements that we all use every day are built under similar conditions. But I think it's a major issue.
You don't think being an industry leader and having more cash on hand than, I guess, company peers in the arena makes Apple any more at fault if they don't do anything?
No. I think that Apple, we should judge Apple for everything that they do, and I just would like to see that the standard should also apply to other companies that make a ton of money.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be interesting to see how something like this, if it gains a lot of momentum and then Apple has an iPhone 5 announcement and nothing is said, if it'll be sort of the elephant in the room, which would be new to Apple because they sort of say whatever they want.
Yeah.
All right, on to the randomizer.
Randomizer.
I don't even know what to say about this.
Okay. Want me to try?
Yeah, could you?
Okay, so
Great.
This story was making the rounds today. It's actually a blog post from the Blackberry blog from the 27th, but for some reason it popped up today. It's the Blackberry Bold team. The Bold team, you're seeing a cartoon there. And these 4 individuals represent something for Blackberry. Apparently, the RIM asked a bunch of New Yorkers what their resolutions would be. And so these 4 represent the 4 most, I guess, vote-getting resolutions. And so there are, let's see, we have the Achiever. We have Go-Go Girl. She's the Achiever. There's Max Stone, the Adventurer. There is Justin Steele, who's the Advocate. And Trudy For Real, the Authentic. And basically what's been going on today is people are kind of slamming their heads against their desks wondering what RIM was thinking when they said, hey, we have a marketing problem. And we got a new CEO, so let's introduce this. Yeah,
and the new CEO said, our biggest problem is in marketing. So if this is the first thing that RIM's coming out with, I understand the infographic. I understand that there are different people who would like RIM products for different reasons. And maybe one of these, the Adventurer or the Advocate, feels more like you. But it's so cartoonish.
Yeah, I mean, I know I see a lot of Trudy For Real in me, and that makes me more apt to buy a BlackBerry.
And to be fair, RIM did update their blog post. They said, we noticed that the Be Bold team has received a lot of attention over the last couple of days, and we wanted to clarify. Infographics is just intended to be a bit of fun, and they've continued there.
And so I'm sure that they, are expecting that everybody looks at this and says, it's a kid in a wheelchair away from the Burger King Kids Club. And they should be out there solving mysteries or consorting with a rapping cat, because that is what the BlackBerry Bold team looks like they should be doing.
You know that a marketing effort has failed when you have to update your blog post saying, you guys, we're just having some fun. You don't like it? You don't think these cartoon kids are cool?
And only one of them has a BlackBerry. In the cartoon, there's only one of them holding up one. Why do all 4 of them have BlackBerries attached to them or something?
Well, I love it. Like Sarah said, it's like, oh, this was just for fun, guys, as opposed to we would like you to meet our new board of directors. Introducing Miss For Real.
Oh, RIM. I get what you're doing. It didn't work. The Bold team. I don't know. If you have another opinion, if you really like them, let us know. Put us in our place. Maybe RIM needs more cartoon characters. What do we know? Right?
Yeah, maybe there will be a big outpouring of support. People have a massive Be Bold team tattoos on their shoulders. You never know.
You never know. Onto the calendar.
Today, the Steam mobile, iOS, and Android apps are out of beta and open to all. If you're a Dish Network customer, starting tomorrow, you can sample smartphone and tablet streaming apps like Remote Access for iPad by signing up for Dish Test Drive. The trial will include live TV access, recorded shows, and on-demand programming for 24 hours. Sign up on Dish's website. Tomorrow is Connect for Windows Day. Yay. Hardware and software hits 12 countries, including the U.S., U.K., and Canada, at a suggested retail price of $249, which includes a near mode and supports gesture and voice support. The SDK is free for developers, so go nuts. Sprint's given Light Squared 6 weeks from today, that's mid-March, to get FCC approval to build out its LTE network, or Sprint will back out of its 15-year deal with Light Squared. There was a condition of the deal, so it's not like they were being jerks. Tonight, by the way, is the Crunchies in San Francisco. Awards will be issued for things like the best mobile app, best cloud service, and Investor of the Year. They'll be streamed live online.
Will you be watching it?
Sure.
Yeah?
I will be watching this.
Justin Robert Young, do you want to know who's going to be the Investor of the Year as picked by TechCrunch's editorial team?
Yes, I would, because I have a pool going. Me and a bunch of my friends, we get a Crunchies pool every year, and we just eat Haagen-Dazs and watch the show.
Wow, that sounds even better than the AT&T executive team.
How did you not eat Captain Crunch during that? You missed the joke. Come on.
Let's see what's incoming.
Incoming message.
Got an email from Nick Zyron. He's the CTO of Future Hosting, who says, first off, let me tell you I'm a fan of your show. You guys do great work. Thanks. Secondly, you were talking about the Megaupload case and their hosting provider. It's common practice in the enterprise hosting industry with dedicated servers, which they had, market, not to keep backups unless they wanted to do so. 99.99% of the cases with dedicated server clients, they get a dedicated server and they pay big bucks to do so because they want a custom, completely tailored solution to fit their needs. When a client has their equipment seized, it's up to them, the client, to get the data to their clients. It's not up to the hosting provider to provide the data to the client of the client, which is confusing, but I get his point. He's basically saying, and now, of course, I'm forgetting the name of that hosting company who says, please.
Cogent and Carpathia.
And Carpathia saying, do not call us. Call Megaupload if you can get through, because we don't have access to that, even if we wanted to.
Last email from Josh in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. My wife works for a mobile carrier and is often asked if the Galaxy Tab, the tablet, is a phone. The reason why they ask is always the same. They are older and have terrible eyesight, but are not quite blind, and with lackluster feature phones, especially large button ones. So I guess they want large buttons on this thing. I think the Samsung Note would probably fit the needs of these people. Only problem I see is that these people won't be comfortable spending $300 on a phone. Thanks for the great show. So does a Note fill a need? I mean, do you think that you could look at things large, large buttons on it? I mean, can you just zoom in to?
Dude, I think there's a total market for the jitterbug case for your Note. You know, just a big rubber case that goes on the front of the device that's just gigantic buttons for a phone. And it'll automatically load Skype, and grandma can call no matter how blind that old bat is.
I mean, I'd say something, even if you didn't want to go full tablet, something like the Galaxy Tab. The smaller version might make more sense, but then again, of course, it's not portable. We had this conversation yesterday. Yeah, the Note might be great for somebody who doesn't want a tiny little phone.
I don't think you can hold the tab to your head. I don't know if it's got the little earpiece and mic. I think it's got a microphone, but I'm not sure if you can hold the tab this way.
Oh, I guess that's true.
That's one of the things.
It's like I never talk on any of my devices, so I forget. That's like the number one feature when buying a smartphone for some people.
Maybe that can be a hilarious practical joke. Is like, Grandma, no, listen. They're talking. You just need to listen harder. Can you hear that? No, talk louder, Dad. Go.
All right, we've come to the end of our show. Remember that you can always call us at 260-TNT-SHOW and email us at technewstoday@twit.tv. And also, thanks to everybody for submitting stories to our Reddit page, technewstoday.reddit.com. If you haven't been there yet, please go, because you can not only submit stories, but you can vote stories up and down. It really helps us put together our lineups every day so we know what's important to you. And thank you to Justin Robert Young for joining us today. Tell folks where to find you online and what's going on with you.
Well, folks, I do want to point everybody. I read the audiobook version of a book that my friend Andrew Main wrote. It's The Chronological Man, The Monster in the Myths, and we are going to be serializing it for free via podcast. You can get the first episode right now at andrewmain.com/book. Sign up for his mailing list there, and we'll let you know when it goes live on iTunes. I know a lot of people get it there. And also, if you dig video games, man, watch us on Sunday. I write the Game On Show, the brand new baby at the TWiT Network. It stars Brian Brushwood and Veronica Belmont, and we talk about video games and all sorts of hilarious nonsense. So check that out. That's 9 o'clock after TWiT on Sundays, and it's up Monday as a podcast.
9 Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Absolutely. Thanks, Justin. Tomorrow we will have Shannon Morse of hack5.org joining us in studio. Until then, have a great night, everybody. Goodbye.
Right on time.